What's going on, guys? It's Greg here once again with another MyoBrain education. This week we're going to go into something called the health food halo effect, okay? So this will be more on the psychological aspect of nutrition and dieting, not so much the physiological aspect of it. But again, I think this is very, very important for people to understand why they're making certain food decisions. It's something that needs to be in the back of your head all the time. Whether you're tracking or not, I think this is a very cool thing to understand, okay? The health food halo effect in a nutshell is going to be anytime that we perceive a food to be healthier than it really is, we tend to increase the intake of it, okay? So I kind of have some examples down here, but again, the big problem with this is it's going to distract you from what really matters in the food, being the overall calorie content of it, the macronutrient content of it, kind of how full does it make you feel, and those things, right? So again, anytime a food's perceived as being really, really healthy, we tend to disregard the quantity of it, which again is going to be the driver of your muscle gain and your fat loss, okay? So some of the big buzzwords I have down here are going to be all natural, gluten-free, and sugar-free. As a good example is maybe you're going into a restaurant and you're wanting to make a good decision and you see like maybe all natural grass-fed beef on the burger. It's still going to be like a high-fat burger, but because you see that it's all natural grass-fed, you're going to get that burger now as opposed to like a plain Jane chicken breast, because again, you had the health food halo kind of tell you that burger was better than just chicken breast, okay, as a classic example there. Same thing like with the gluten-free. Maybe you're at the supermarket and they have like regular cookies and gluten-free cookies. And you're kind of looking down the aisle and you're like, well, maybe I don't even need cookies at all. But again, maybe you look at these gluten-free cookies and you're like, oh, well, they're gluten-free. I can just have like a few of them and be fine. But if you kind of turn the gluten-free cookies around, maybe it has the same exact macronutrient content as like an Oreo, but you wouldn't have bought the Oreos because you know those are bad for you, right? But instead, because these gluten-free type Oreo cookies are similar content to regular Oreos, now you're going to get those and kind of put them into your diet, right? So again, so many examples here, but again, it's very, very common because there's such strong marketing terms and it's constantly being pounded into our head that they're good for us, or they're okay to eat. It's very, very difficult to say no to these things. And kind of the second part here, I have this health food halo, cool little acronym. Health food halo foods, typical foods down here that I kind of see this effect with most often. So the first one being like a salad, right? Everyone perceives a salad as being very good, it's green, it's nutritious, but of course you can turn that into a bad decision very, very quickly. So maybe if you have a salad just like, lettuce and spinach and kale, it's very good. But then because you have this idea of, okay, I'm making a good decision, my perceived healthiness of the salad is now good, you feel apt to add like cheese and croutons and a hard-boiled egg and ranch dressing on top of the salad, okay? You probably wouldn't have added all those foods onto that meal unless you thought that salad was good for you, okay? So classic example of how something that's perceived as being good can cause you to overindulge in other things. Another classic one I have is like sweet potato fries. I see this a lot of like if I go out with friends and they're like, oh, I'm gonna get a burger, but then I'm gonna get like sweet potato fries as opposed to regular fries, trying to make like a good decision. When in all actuality, that the calorie content between a sweet potato fry and a regular fry is pretty much negligible, right? They'd be better off just getting a burger and like no fries. But because this sweet potato has a good kind of health tag to it, they feel fine with getting fries with their burger. And again, that kind of goes back to a second thing we'll go into with the studies on the second part of this video. Two other ones being like low-fat ice cream. So again, this is very popular right now with things like Enlightened and Halo Top and probably dozens of other low-calorie ice cream I don't know about. Again, this is kind of not as big a concern for me because a lot of these are very, very low calories. Even if you have an entire pint of Halo Top, it's not really increasing your overall calorie intake that much. But maybe for someone who isn't tracking their macronutrients, this could be a problem that if they think they can have just maybe 400 calories of low-fat ice cream every single night, that could cause them to increase their intake. But this isn't a huge calorie bomb for people who are actually tracking their food. But if you're not tracking your food, sometimes just seeing an entire pint and says it only has 300 calories on it can get you to overconsume a little bit more than you should. And the last one I have down here is going to be bulletproof coffee. I think this has died down a little bit, or maybe I'm just paying attention to it a little bit less. But if you're not familiar with the bulletproof coffee kind of protocol, is to take your normal coffee and then add things like coconut oil or MCT oil or grass-fed butter or all three of those into your coffee, and it's supposedly healthy for you and things like that. So again, this is a classic example, probably the best worst example of all of these four, of something that is perceived as being healthy, being like grass-fed, all natural Kerrygold butter. Having that healthy label attached to it allows someone to put like 2 tablespoons of butter into their coffee that has like 300 calories of just no nutrition at all, and that greatly impacts their intake because of the perceived healthiness of that food. Okay, this is a real impact that someone can have. Okay, with the bulletproof coffee, and that's with the MCT oil, that's with the coconut oil, coconut anything right now. People just forget the actual intake because they think it's so healthy it doesn't matter. Okay, and again, one of these things, picking a gluten-free cookie isn't a big deal. Having low-fat ice cream once in a while isn't a big deal. But you have to compound all of these things together, 2 or 3 of these a day, and you're like, oh, I can have sweet potato fries because it's healthy for me, and I can have a salad with some ranch because it's fine, it's green, and I can have some bulletproof coffee, and I can have some sugar-free whatever. They're starting to compound each other. That's where you can start to see some people who maybe think they're having a very, very healthy, nutritious diet because they're perceived as it being healthy, but their intake does not really match kind of what they think it should be. In the second part of this video, we're going to be talking about 2 different scientific studies, going into one on fast food and kind of the effect that the health food halo effect can have on your intake of choices there. The second one being kind of how you pair foods up into a meal, how it can have an effect on how many calories you think that meal has. Okay, so let's talk about one of the 2 studies that kind of show this health food halo effect. So this first one's going to be on fast food consumption. This was several years ago, but it was done by UCLA. Roughly 100 participants is what they looked at here. So what they compared was the average consumption of one purchase at Subway versus McDonald's, right? So they gave these people no kind of guidance of what to get. They literally just gave them money to purchase a meal at one of these 2 places, and then averaged out. They took their receipts and averaged out the average calorie content that every single person had. Okay, the somewhat shocking thing is that these participants consumed much more calories, about 200 calories exactly, more at Subway versus McDonald's, right? This is where that health food halo really comes into play. So why this occurred, one of the reasons why this has occurred, because people, again, most people are understanding that McDonald's is not a great food decision for them. I think if you ask the typical person, like, what's a classic example of an unhealthy food, this would probably be like in their top 5 things they would say. They'd be like soda, cake, McDonald's, right? It's kind of rolls off the tip of your tongue. Subway, on the other hand, if you maybe told someone what's the best 3 fast food places to eat at if you want to have a healthy option, that may be on their list, right? So you walk into Subway with kind of this feeling of, I'm in a good environment, I can't really make too many bad decisions. So you start to then ignore the things that really matter, like serving sizes and portion control. So a foot long, 12 inches of bread and meat and cheese and all those things inside that doesn't seem that bad because Subway seems like a healthy place. Versus again, McDonald's, that having a quarter pounder with cheese and fries isn't great. So what they also found at Subway was people were a lot more likely to grab a soda with their meal, or grab chips with their meal, or especially grab a cookie with their meal, because they had that perceived kind of benefit that they made a good decision with their food, with to be their sandwich. Therefore, because they had that, they can afford to have a soda or afford to have cookies with their Subway meal, versus people very rarely would get something like a cookie with their meal at McDonald's. And again, this is only 100 participants here, but I think when you think about this logically, and maybe if you've been in these situations, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, as someone who ate a lot of fast food growing up, especially a lot of Subway, I would get cookies almost every single time I went to Subway, right? Because again, I literally had that thing of even if I got a foot long grilled chicken breast with like light mayo on it, I would still think that like I'm going to Subway, I should be able to get a cookie with that because I'm getting chicken and whole wheat bread, right? I thought I had I thought I could afford those extra calories versus like I've almost never gotten a cookie at McDonald's or gotten like even ice cream at McDonald's because I understand like, okay, if I'm gonna have a quarter pounder of cheese with a medium fry, I actually probably get like a Diet Coke with that because again, it's not gonna be a great decision. But maybe the actual calorie content of my Subway meal and my McDonald's meal was roughly the same. So again, it's really just kind of more in our heads of how this can be a problem. So again, this really is two examples of Subway and McDonald's. Really, this is anytime. Maybe if you go like to Whole Foods to go to the buffet, okay, just because it's like Whole Foods buffet doesn't mean you can like eat a whole bunch of it versus like maybe a Pizza Hut buffet, right? It's still going to be a buffet. There's still calories in those foods, okay? So anytime you're going to a restaurant, a grocery store that is perceived as being healthy, just don't forget the portions still matter a ton and don't really be susceptible to this health food halo effect where you're getting more food now because you think the place is healthier than it really is. Okay, had to get my Picasso out for this one and make you guys a little diagram, but I'm sure this will make sense once it's complete. So in this study here, it's going to be on judging the overall calorie contents of two different meals. So participants were put in one of two groups. So they either judged this first meal or this second meal. What they're trying to do is have them estimate how many calories they thought were in each of these meals. So the first group estimated that this salad and this large soda had roughly 1,011 calories in it. That's what they perceived to be in the salad and soda meals. Okay, chicken salad, it did have some dressing on it as well, okay? Then they showed a different group of people, literally the same exact salad, okay? The same exact soda drink, but then they added some crackers here. And I'm gonna have this heart for kind of being, you know, this is the healthy thing. Some trans fat-free crackers on top of this salad and this soda. This group of people then estimated that this meal had 835 calories, okay? Obviously, you know, if you're going to take a meal and then add a food to it, it's not gonna have fewer calories than what it had before. But when you separate these two things, right, and you ask two different groups of people, which of these have fewer calories, when they're not aware of, like, this was their initial guess, this crackers, this addition to, with the trans fat-free crackers now gives them a bias because again, they have this idea that this entire meal is now healthier and lower calorie than it really should be, okay? So again, you see how powerful this health food halo effect can be, you know, so much that when you add an entire food to a meal, on average, people think that that entire thing has fewer calories than it really does, okay? So again, with the fast food study we talked about, comparing McDonald's and Subway, that people tend to actually consume more calories at Subway. This tends to make sense, right? Because it makes people perceive that, oh, if I get a whole wheat sandwich, I can afford to have something else with it and it still be lower in calorie, okay? So those two studies I think really complement each other with why it's very, very easy to overconsume calories, which again is always the number one goal for people, controlling calories. Why that can be so problematic when you have things like this, right? A buzzword, trans fat, fat-free, you know, low sugar, gluten-free, all natural. It distracts you from the big picture, okay? So again, the whole idea of this video is to educate you on how susceptible we all can be to this. Again, I talked about growing up, I would always get cookies with Subway, right? And again, I'm even susceptible to this sometimes now of marketing claims of things being all natural or high in protein or whatever that I see, and I initially think that's a good decision, right? I have to check myself and be like, okay, well, what's really in this? What have I already had today? And go through all the normal decisions I need to think about, not just, you know, my perception of what is healthy or what is not based on marketing, okay? So again, the whole point of this is to try to avoid being so susceptible to all the marketing claims with food and really get down to what's in it. What are the calories? What's the fat, carbs, and protein? How does it make me feel as far as hunger-wise and those things, okay? So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. Again, go into more of the psychology of nutrition I think is really important, especially as the longer you get into nutrition, you realize that tracking your macros and things like that really isn't all that hard. And sometimes it comes back to understanding nutrition a little bit more on why we make certain food decisions. Again, I think this is a very, very big one for people, learning of kind of why they eat certain foods, why they overeat certain foods. And again, having the health food halo in your back pocket of knowledge, I think will help you with just not over consuming all of these healthy foods. So that's it, guys. Hopefully you liked this video. As always, let me know if you have any ideas for future ones. If you have any questions, let me know at myobraincoaching@gmail.com. And that is it until next time.